Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 33rd Annual Firefighter of the Year Awards. I'm Ian from WCVB-TV. Today, our colors will be posted by the Lynn and Springfield Fire Department Honor Guards. Please remain standing, if you will, for our national anthem, performed by Todd Angeli, and our invocation by Reverend Bruce Arbor, Chief Chaplain, Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Let us be in an attitude of prayer. We come before you on this beautiful, ordinary day, with our hearts filled with gratitude for this opportunity to gather and celebrate and honor those who have answered the call in the moment of distress when an ordinary day becomes extraordinary, and the need for those who serve are immediate. Without hesitation, they answered the call. And in this day, we ask your blessing upon them and their families and their friends, and all those who continue to serve the Commonwealth. May we celebrate their gift and the gift of your blessing upon them in safety and service. In your holy name we pray. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend. Thank you, Todd, as well. And thank you to the Greater Boston, Brockton, Worcester Pipes and Drum Band Honor Guards from Lynn and Springfield for helping us kick off the 33rd Annual Firefighters of the Year Awards. At this time, I will dismiss the Honor Guards and thank you again. Thank you. Please be seated. Just before I get into the formal remarks, if this is your first time to one of these firefighter awards, you are in for quite a morning. That's all I can say. Get ready. I know I speak for everyone on stage, as well as my colleagues over at WCVB-TV, when I say what an honor it is to recognize the members of the Massachusetts Fire Service. Some of you may know that my cousin is a Milford firefighter, and his dad, Ron, worked very closely with both fire investigators and public educators in the fire service for many years. Personally, I have covered your stories on the news for several years, also on the anchor desk and at the scene. So I thought I had a little bit of an idea and understanding of what you did. I was wrong. This past September, I had a chance to participate in the Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts Fire Ops on the Boston Common. Elected officials and myself participated. We put on gear, we went through simulations, car accidents, got to use the jaws of life, gain access, CPR, simulated burning bedroom apartment. By the way, in full gear, with the full face mask apparatus, and climbing into the back of that truck, which seemed like forever. This is where it became real fast. It was hot, it was confined, I was on my knees, and I was in complete darkness. Panic started to set in. Claustrophobia is not a good thing. I had to find my happy place real quick. And again, it was a mental exercise and an understanding, if not for just a brief moment, to know what these men and women go through on a daily basis. So I stand in honor of you all. And oh, by the way, thanks to Deputy Chief Craig Long from Leominster Firefighter, who basically held my hand the entire time. It was quite a morning. Well, today you're going to meet first responders who portray the true definition of bravery on every level. Some are veteran or retired firefighters. Others are at the beginning of their careers. Some showed up to battle raging fires. Others helped vulnerable people survive internal struggles that could have been just as deadly. They worked in high winds and blizzard conditions and in swamp water and at the bottom of a ravine. Some are doing life-saving work outside the firehouse, and several will be recognized today for incidents that happened while they were off the clock, which is a daily reminder to all of us that our public safety professionals are never really off duty. We begin today's ceremony. It is my pleasure to introduce the Secretary of Public Safety and Security, Terrence Reedy. Terrence.
Thanks, Doug, and good morning to you all. It's my privilege to be in my hometown and welcome you to Worcester. I want to start by thanking the Marshal, Peter Ostroskey, and his team for all their hard work and effort in putting this event together each year. It's a hard thing to do, and their organization and their attention to detail is going to be felt by all of you today, and I want to thank Peter for that. I also want to be the first to congratulate our honorees in their departments, in their families and friends for the unbelievable, courageous, and brave stories that you're going to hear today. And when I say stories, I really don't mean stories. What I mean is real life, not TV, acts of heroism in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts this year. Now, as I indicated, this is my hometown, and it's poignant that we're here in Worcester. Because when we think about firefighters, we think about bravery, courage, and sacrifice. The Hannah Awards here a couple weeks ago, and it's the same theme. Police officers, firefighters, first responders that work in an occupation where they may not come home at the end of the day. And there are not too many occupations that have to deal with that. And their families and their friends have to deal with that. So it's not stories, it's real life. And I don't think there's another city in the Commonwealth that understands that better than Worcester. And when we talk about sacrifice, courage, and bravery, what comes to my mind, and I know a lot of you in this room, it's Paul Brotherton, it's Timothy Jackson, it's Jeremiah Lucy, it's James Lyons, it's Joseph McGurk, it's Thomas Spencer, it's John Davies, it's Christopher Roy, it's Jason Menard. The heroes behind me live on in their tradition and their memory, just like all the firefighters across this Commonwealth. It's a hard job, it's a difficult job, it's a dangerous job. Courage, bravery, sacrifice. Worcester knows it more than most, and Worcester is grateful for their sacrifice, and the most important thing is their memory, because that won't fade, because of all of you and the rest of this Commonwealth, and for all the cities and towns who have had firefighters die in the line of duty. It's my privilege to be able to introduce the next speaker, who also, like me, is from this area, and this is her hometown. And she knows the pain and the hurt and the tragedy that Worcester has seen too many times over the years with firefighters. So with that, it's my privilege to introduce the Lieutenant Governor of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, Karyn Polito.
Good morning. It's wonderful to be here. Welcome to Mechanics Hall in our city of Worcester. Thank you, Secretary Reedy, for that kind introduction and for recognizing the stories of the families who we have lost here in Worcester. The Worcester 6, Firefighter Menard, Firefighter Roy, little Ava, his daughter, will always be a part of our memory. And I know that the tribute that we make today to those who have fought through battles of fire and emergency responses is in the light of that we will always remember those who have sacrificed, who have paid that ultimate sacrifice. What I want to speak to today is about the call of action that individuals, your families, these individuals have made. The choice of being a firefighter, the choice of this occupation and this profession takes a very unique and special person to want to do this work, understanding the obvious risks associated with putting out fires, entering buildings of different structural integrity, and always being at the ready to respond, all for the mission of always being there to protect and serve and keep the people of our Commonwealth safe. And when you think about that in the context of the video that was shown, it's natural to think of these individuals as superheroes, because it's extraordinary the kind of work that they do each and every day. I want to thank the chiefs. I want to thank Peter Ostroskey and all of you who do your work to train and equip and provide the resources so that these men and women are in the best shape possible when that call comes to go do their job. We know that there are obvious risks associated with this occupation, but the risk I want to speak to today, in the presence of many family members, is the risk associated with their health. Because in order for them to be that superhero, they need to be healthy and well so that they can have a long career in the service, in the fire service. We know that this occupation brings a higher risk for the development of cancer. And I want to highlight a program that was born out of the generosity of a couple who lives here in central Massachusetts, and they are Jim and Nancy Coughlin. They started an organization called Detect Together, which is intended to early detect cancer and then obviously intervene with the appropriate treatment to help people be well and recover. They also took on a mission to help the fire service. And it's a very basic 3-step program. It's about knowing you're great, knowing how you feel when you have your energy and how you feel every day, and knowing you're great. If for 2 weeks you don't feel so great, don't wait. Go see your doctor and talk about that. They also have webinars and online material, in-person training, and early detection screenings that I know a lot of the fire leadership is taking a part of, posters in your workplaces. because these superheroes are probably the kinds of people that put themselves not first, but last. And so it will be incumbent on the leadership here and the families to make sure that you take advantage of every opportunity for early screening, early detection, because response time matters. It matters in response to a fire or an emergency, and it matters to your health and well-being. And as we now are on the eve of a beautiful holiday in Thanksgiving, I'm grateful that we have the opportunity to acknowledge and honor those who are here today, and to say thank you to all of the men and women, past, present, and those who will come into the fire service for their incredible devotion to the people and the well-being of the people of our Commonwealth. To all of you, I wish you a happy and thankful day together with your families. It is now my pleasure to introduce our governor. I have also had the opportunity over these 8 years to work side by side with this extraordinary individual. And I know how much he cares about the fire service and those who are in public safety, who put their lives on the line every single day. And what's made our governor so special is, yes, he is capable, yes, he is committed, but he is one of the most compassionate and caring individuals that I know. And that has truly made him one of the greatest governors of our time. And with that, please join me in welcoming our governor, Charlie Baker.
I have to give the Lieutenant Governor credit. She's been introducing me now for 9 years, and she always manages to make it sound like she's doing it for the first time. So I really appreciate that. And you all should know that the folks in the firefighting community and their families have no bigger advocate or greater champion than your Lieutenant Governor. She's been an absolute star on these issues, and has a lot to do with why we've managed to work with the Firefighters Association of Massachusetts and our colleagues in the legislature to create funding mechanisms for both gear to protect firefighters and equipment to serve firefighters that's available to them every single year on a going forward basis. It's not the kind of thing where it gets appropriated and funded when times are good and all of a sudden the money disappears when times are bad. It's there on a regular, permanent basis to make sure that our men and women have all the gear and all the equipment that they need to be safe and to be protected. We've also managed over the course of the past several years, again, working with our colleagues in the legislature and the folks in the firefighting community, to dramatically improve the quality of the health insurance coverage that the men and women of the fire service have based on occupational health issues. And Bridgewater, which is a wonderful training facility that will benefit the men and women of the fire service for decades, was another collaborative initiative that we worked on together over the course of the past 8 years. One of the things the Lieutenant Governor and I talk about is always wanting to make sure that those who do this work, those who swear that oath, feel that they are being protected and served by those of us in elected office, that we are hearing their concerns, that we are dealing with their concerns, and that we are making it possible for them to be as successful as they possibly can be. And I just want to say to the folks here from the legislature how much we appreciate your partnership as we work to serve the men and women, not just who are here today, but the families who are in the audience and all the people they represent across the Commonwealth. I do want to say something about the names that both Secretary Reedy and Lieutenant Governor Polito spoke to. For those of you who don't know anything about the Worcester Six, they died in a horrific blaze that took place in a building here in Worcester that was abandoned for years. It was the so-called Worcester Cold Storage Facility. I won't get into the details except to say that everybody in the fire service in the greater Worcester area was very familiar with this building, and they knew that if this building ever caught on fire, it would be a nightmare to put the fire out, and it would be a terribly difficult challenge for them, given the rabbit warren of little lockers that were inside it, the passages that were available, all of the insulation that was in this place. I mean, you could just see it if you knew anything about the way fire works, as a place that would just turn into a combustible oven if a fire ever got started or really got going there. And so when the fire started there, which was started by some homeless people who were living there, who fled, every single person in the Worcester Fire Service who responded to that knew they were walking into an extraordinarily dangerous situation for all of them. And they did it anyway. And a terrible, terrible tragedy ensued. But they walked in that front door. They climbed those ladders. They entered that building. And they fought that fire because that was the oath they swore. Now, I think sometimes we need to remember that when they put on the gear and respond to the call, in certain instances, they know how high the bar is with respect to their ability to actually do their job and go home. Now, Christopher Roy perished looking for people inside a burning triple-decker in Worcester. And Jason Menard died also looking, along with one of his fellow firefighters, for people inside another triple-decker in Worcester. And he died when he pushed his fellow firefighter out the window of a third-floor window and put his body between the smoke and the fire and his colleague, saving his colleague's life and losing his own. When Doug talks about the fact that these are not the movies, it's not fiction, it's real life, it doesn't necessarily always end the way you would hope it would. He's telling the truth. And that, in many ways, is what makes this opportunity we all have today and the work that we do every single day during the year to recognize and support with dollars and gear and legislation the folks who serve in the fire service, and to take the time to do the work to recognize and honor and acknowledge those very special moments that have taken place each and every year. I know I speak for the Lieutenant Governor, for the Secretary, for Peter, and for everybody else on our team when I say how much we will miss this event when we're no longer in these roles. And part of it will be because it gives us a great opportunity to say thank you and God bless to some people who've done some really special things. But the other reason is much more basic than that. We have a pretty solid understanding of what it means to do this job because we've seen it up front and had a chance to really get to know what this is all about and what it means to the people here in the Commonwealth. And the work that's done to train, to make sure that people can do this stuff safely, but to recognize and understand that on any given day, it could be the call that sends you into some place like the Worcester Cold Storage Facility, where you know, walking in the door, you're taking your life in your hands. That's what these people do, and they do it for us. And at least once a year, we are grateful to have a chance to tell them how grateful we are for the work that they do. God bless them all. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor, and thank you for the important reminder of why we're all here today, to say the least. I'd like to recognize the Heroic Awards Committee, who had the honor and the real challenging task of reviewing all of the nominations And I know it's going to be hard, but would you please hold your applause until the end? And we ask that the folks, when you hear your name, please stand. Again, Secretary of Public Safety Terrence Reedy, Undersecretary Jean Benacasa Thorpe, State Fire Marshal Peter Ostroskey, Chief James M. Vona, President, Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, Chief Michael Wynn, immediate past President, Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, Rich McKinnon Jr., President, Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, Captain Michael McCullough, Massachusetts Call Volunteer Firefighters Association, Chief Peter Burke, First Vice President, Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, and Paul Davies of the Tapper Club. I would also like to recognize Deputy Secretary Susan Terry of the Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, Deputy State Fire Marshal Maribel Fournier, all of the legislators and city officials who are here today, and a special thanks, of course, to our host city of Worcester, including Acting Fire Chief Martin Dyer, City Manager Eric Batista, and District Attorney Joseph Early. Thank you all. Okay, time to get into some real-life situations. Today's first award category is named for Norman Knight, the founder of the 100 Club. Mr. Knight is widely known throughout the region for his truly phenomenal commitment to first responders in their time of need. The club's motto, "We care for those who care for us." This is not just a tagline. It's been his calling for more than 60 years. The state's Fire Marshal's Memorial, Hyperbaric Chamber, and many training resources were largely funded through Mr. Knight's generosity. Governor Baker, will you please step forward? I call to the stage from Eastham Fire Department, Lieutenant Rachel Topple. Lieutenant Topple has been the Eastham Fire Department Community Outreach Coordinator for the past decade. In addition to her duties as a shift lieutenant, she delivers important lessons on fire safety and prevention to children and seniors alike. She hosts Read with a Firefighter and coordinates the annual Community Health Fair Day. Recognizing the unique safety hazards that older adults face, Lieutenant Topple routinely visits at-risk seniors on her days off just to check on them. She routinely works with the Council on Aging to identify the most vulnerable residents to be sure they receive all of the social and safety services that they need. The lieutenant is a lifeline for many members of Eastham's growing elderly population, and she personifies the department's community service mission. In recognition of her tireless commitment to the Eastham community, the Commonwealth is pleased to present Lieutenant Rachel Topple with the 2022 Norman Knight Excellence in Community Service Award. By the way, as a native Cape Codder, just nice to have somebody from the Cape represented, so thank you. Please welcome from the Lawrence Fire Department, Firefighter Juan Manny Gonzalez. Firefighter Gonzalez is the co-founder of Heal Lawrence, which works with families who have been affected by fire at home. Manny and his partner step in after disaster and help provide families with clothes, food, housing, and personal care items. This past April, when 73 residents were displaced from their homes after a large building fire, Heal Lawrence partnered with city and state resources to provide them with lodging for 5 days, free of charge. Firefighter Gonzalez frequently appears on a local radio show to speak about fire prevention, fire safety, and the importance of renter's insurance. He even helps residents complete the renter's insurance application, and his ability to communicate in English and Spanish have been invaluable in reaching a wider range of Lawrence's Latino population. He is a source of comfort, knowledge, assistance, and resources for his community. In the words of Lawrence Fire Chief Brian Moriarty, quote, "This guy is Lawrence." In recognition of his commitment to helping those in need in Lawrence, the Commonwealth is pleased to present firefighter Manny Gonzalez with the 2022 Norman Knight Excellence in Community Service Award. We will now present citations for meritorious conduct. Please welcome to the stage from Bellingham Fire Department, Captain Robert Provost III. Captain Provost was off duty. He was working out in the gym on July 2nd of 2022 when he was notified of a medical emergency in the building. He immediately found the victim, an older adult who had collapsed and was in cardiac arrest. Captain Provost initiated CPR and then used a defibrillator from the gym to revive the man before EMS arrived. In recognition of his off-duty life-saving actions when every second mattered, the Commonwealth is pleased to present Captain Robert Provost III with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Captain, you can tell your workout too. I call to the stage from the Ashby Fire Department, Deputy Chief James Joseph. It was just after 12:30 a.m. on November 4th of 2021 when Deputy Chief Joseph was the first firefighter on scene at a working fire in a rooming house. Upon arrival, he saw heavy smoke and an occupant leaning out of a top floor window. Since the Ashby Fire Department is a fully called department after 5 in the evening, he responded from home with limited tools and gear. He immediately entered the home with only his gear and water extinguisher, attempting to reach the top floor, and with no line or backup, he held back a significant amount of the fire but was not able to advance past the heavy smoke and flames. He exited the home, grabbed a 24-foot ground ladder from the first responding engine, threw it up to the top floor with the help of 2 retired firefighters who had also arrived. He raced up the ladder, rescued the victim through the window, and helped the man down to safety. For his bravery, skill, and determination that resulted in the saving of a life, the Commonwealth presents Deputy Chief James Joseph with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Please welcome from the Lawrence Fire Department, Captain Eric Zahn. Here is another example of a firefighter off duty and jumping into action. On the morning of June 9th, 2022, Captain Zahn was traveling on 495 when he saw a car that had hit a guardrail and driven off the road. There was no one else at the scene, so Captain Zahn pulled over to help and found a man at the wheel unconscious and bleeding from the head. He was unresponsive, had no pulse, and was not breathing. Moments later, a Good Samaritan stopped to assist, and together they removed the passenger from the car. They performed CPR on the patient until additional firefighters and paramedics arrived. They defibrillated him and continued resuscitation efforts. The man was transported to Lawrence General Hospital, where he was alert upon arrival. For his instinct to help and effectively early action that most likely saved a life, the Commonwealth is pleased to present Captain Eric Zahn with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Please welcome from Hopkinton Fire Department, Lieutenant Scott Jurzik. Firefighters respond to emergencies every day. But when Lieutenant Jurzik arrived at a Hopkinton home on the afternoon of May 15th, 2022, he found a crisis of a different kind. A distraught teenage boy was on the roof of a house, not responding to repeated calls from below. The lieutenant requested assistance from the Ashland Fire Department's tower, And while Hopkinton Fire and police monitored the teen's location from the street, the lieutenant entered the home and went up to the second floor. He climbed out the window up to a steeply pitched roof, 40 feet in the air. And over the next 40 minutes, the lieutenant calmly built a rapport with that teenager, gained his trust, and eventually convinced him to accept some help. Without any safety equipment, but by using the most effective tool available, his heart, he got the boy into Ashland's tower bucket and down to safety. For his ability to quickly assess the situation, the Commonwealth presents Lieutenant Scott Jerzyk with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Please welcome from the Berlin Fire Department, Captain Anthony Alessi, Lieutenant Jonathan Polito, Firefighter Frank Brewer, Firefighter EMT Michelle DeVoe, and from the Bolton Fire Department, Fire Chief Paramedic Jeffrey Legender, Captain Peter Casello, Firefighter EMT Gregory Childs, Firefighter Paramedic Shane Cook, Firefighter Paramedic Jeremy O'Connell, Firefighter Paramedic Jason Roach, and Firefighter EMT Wesley Chip Durant III, who works for both Berlin and Bolton Fire Departments. On the morning of June 8th of 2022, the Bolton Fire Department was notified of a motor vehicle accident on 495. A single vehicle struck the guardrail and went off the road at high speed. The first responding personnel observed a minivan partially submerged in a swamp at the bottom of a 60-foot ravine. They reported that 2 occupants were trapped and unresponsive. Bolton and Berlin Fire have automatic aid agreements for Interstate 495, and crews from both departments took part in a demanding rescue operation over incredibly challenging terrain. The jaws of life, Stokes basket, first aid bags, and other equipment had to be rigged and lowered to the vehicle. Several trees actually had to be removed so firefighters could safely transport the patient up the steep incline to a waiting med flight helicopter and ambulance. Despite the complex nature of this operation, the entire incident from dispatch to last unit cleared was just 60 minutes, and both victims recovered from their injuries. For their teamwork and life-saving efforts under extreme conditions, the Commonwealth is pleased to present these members of the Berlin and Bolton Fire Department with the 2022 Governor's Group Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Thank you all. Absolutely. Big group. They deserve a lot of applause. From the Springfield Fire Department, I call to the stage Lieutenant Brian Couture and Firefighter Joshua Rios. When Engine 3 arrived at a Springfield building fire in the early morning of December 27th of 2021, they saw 2 occupants yelling for help from the attic window on the 3rd floor. They threw their 24-foot ground ladder to the base of the 3rd floor window. Lieutenant Couture started up the ladder the instant it made contact with the building. He was able to help the woman down the ladder into safety while Firefighter Rios, a brand new probationary firefighter by the way, then ascended to the 3rd floor window and coaxed the second victim onto the ladder and brought her down as well. For their skill, determination, and decisive action to rescue 2 people, the Commonwealth presents Lieutenant Brian Couture and Firefighter Joshua Rios with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Please welcome from the North Attleboro Fire Department, Chief Christopher Coleman, Captain Joshua Langill, Captain George McKinnon, Lieutenant Jeffrey S. Badger, Lieutenant Scott Langill, Firefighter Richard McDonough, retired, and from the Foxborough Fire Department, Firefighter Paramedic Corey Shepherdson. The IAFF Fallen Firefighter Memorial is in Colorado Springs, and it honors firefighters who have given their lives in the line of duty. And on September 16th of 2021, North Attleboro Fire Chief Christopher Coleman, along with other off-duty and retired firefighters from North Attleboro and Foxborough, were on their way to visit the site in memory of fallen comrades. They were about 45 minutes into their flight, traveling 30,000 feet in the air, when they saw a fellow passenger in his 60s suddenly begin turning gray and become unresponsive. The man had no pulse. Although luckily for this man, his family, and all on board, 4 of these men are also paramedics. They were able to move the man into the aisle and start CPR immediately. While the flight attendant consulted with a doctor in Chicago, Captain McKinnon began CPR, and they were able to administer an IV line and stabilize him until the plane touched down in Chicago. The patient was transported by waiting paramedics to a local hospital, and he recovered. Firefighters, people, are never truly off duty. For their quick thinking and immediate action to help a stranger, the Commonwealth is pleased to present these North Attleboro and Foxborough firefighters with the 2022 Governor's Group Citation for Meritorious Conduct. I call to the stage from the Stoughton Fire Department, Captain George O'Neill, Lieutenant Ryan Cabral, Lieutenant David Jardin, Firefighter Jerry Fowler, Firefighter Morgan Genitosio, Firefighter John Hussey, Firefighter Joseph Manganaro, Firefighter George Silva, and Firefighter Justin Slowinski, who was unable to be here today. There were heavy winds and snowfall when Stoughton Fire Department members responded to a motor vehicle accident just after midnight on January 14th of 2022. It was reported that this was a single vehicle crash and a driver was trapped inside. The vehicle had landed on its roof after crashing into a utility pole and a fire hydrant. The crash caused catastrophic damage to the vehicle and grievous injuries to the operator. Now, this scene was further complicated by downed utility wires and extreme weather conditions. The extent of the damage required one person to operate extrication tools and another to act as his eyes, a process that took some 45 minutes to complete safely, while also providing life-saving patient care. Mid-flight, of course, had to be grounded due to the tough weather condition. Engine 1 was detailed to the ambulance for transport to Boston Medical Center. The victim spent 10 days in the hospital before he was released to rehab facility, surviving devastating injuries thanks to the teamwork and professionalism of these rescuers. For their heroism and teamwork under extreme conditions, the Commonwealth is pleased to present these Stoughton firefighters with the 2022 Governor's Group Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Thank you all. Please welcome Captain David Karyn and Lieutenant Robert Ketty of the Tewksbury Fire Department. It was last September 18th, the Tewksbury Fire Department responded to an automatic fire alarm activation at a senior housing development. While there were no visible signs of fire when they arrived, Captain Karyn found heavy smoke coming from an end unit. Lieutenant Ketty entered that unit with no hose line and heavy smoke and started to search for the occupants. He located the resident, who was semi-conscious and unresponsive. The man was hanging over the bathtub, tightly clutching the handrail. Lieutenant Keddy was able to pry his hands loose and attempted to drag him outside. The man's size made this a challenging rescue, but Captain Cardy made his way in and, without the benefit of SCBA, assisted in his removal. Together, they dragged the male into the front yard where he was administered first aid and oxygen. The man was airlifted to Boston Hospital where he made a full recovery. For their bravery, quick thinking, and life-saving skills, the Commonwealth presents Captain David Carney and Lieutenant Robert Keddy with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. Please welcome from the Lawrence Fire Department, Firefighter Louis Servino, Firefighter Jeffrey Young, and Lieutenant Ryan LaValle, who is unable to be here today. When Lawrence firefighters responded to an early morning call on Christmas Eve last year to a shed near the Falls Bridge, they found smoke coming from the small utility building. Ladder 4 forced the metal commercial door from the jamb, but soon realized it was chained and padlocked from the other side. And this could only mean one thing: somebody was inside and they were in danger. Firefighters immediately grabbed a set of bolt cutters, snapped the chain. They entered to find heavily involved room with fire and heavy smoke over their heads. And inside, they discovered a man in his 80s who was unconscious and slumped over in debris. They brought him out to safety, where they administered oxygen and CPR until he regained consciousness. Firefighters later learned that this man was homeless and had lit a candle in his makeshift shelter. Given the locked door and his conditions on their arrival, there is no question that that man would have lost his life if it were not for their rapid action. In recognition of their bravery, the Commonwealth is pleased to present Lieutenant LaValle, Firefighter Servino, and Firefighter Young with the 2022 Governor's Group Citation for Meritorious Conduct. I call to the stage members of the Fall River Fire Departments. Is there anybody left at the firehouse? All right, many of us may remember on January 29th of 2022, we were all in the grips of a blizzard, but we don't remember it the same way, especially the way that these folks did. With a blizzard that dumped more than 2 feet of snow on southeastern Massachusetts and winds of 65 miles an hour drove the snow with near zero visibility, busy streets came to a standstill. These were the conditions when a 4-alarm fire broke out on Irving Street in Fall River. Firefighter Brandon Norbert lives on the street and was home that day. He saw the smoke and called 911, and then, without any protective gear, raced out of his house into the storm and into the structure. Checking the apartments as he ascended the stairs, he ensured that all occupants got out safely, including one who had ignored the heavy smoke and returned to retrieve some possessions. Firefighter Norbert briefed the crews on their arrival. A recent hire on the Fall River Fire Department, this was his first significant fire. Outside, the heavy snow accumulated and illegally parked cars made nearby streets almost impassable. Responding apparatus had to be assisted by snowplows and actually residents who were pushing cars out of the way. After battling their way to the scene, crews had to battle the elements as well as the heavy fire. They shoveled out hydrants, pulled attack lines through the snow, cleared the way for plows and apparatus, and waded through hip-deep snowbanks and water runoff to attack the blaze. As firefighters worked to keep it from spreading to nearby homes and garages, the fire reached the roof and caused it to collapse. Flames blew from every window, with embers 6 to 12 inches blowing onto nearby houses and cars. Temperatures, they were now plummeting, with equipment, walkways, and hose lines starting to freeze. Finally, by 7 o'clock that evening, the fire was under control, having drawn every resource the department had to that scene. 2 firefighters were injured during the response. One suffered a severe hand injury using a forcible entry tool. The other suffered neck and leg injuries after falling on the ice. The building suffered catastrophic damage, but Fall River's firefighting prevented it from spreading to the rest of the neighborhood, and if not for their monumental efforts in blinding snow and sub-freezing winds, the cost in lives and property could have devastated that community. For their teamwork and extraordinary actions at the height of a record-setting storm, the Commonwealth is pleased to present these Fall River firefighters with a 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. If I could I also ask Firefighter Norbert to please step forward. Firefighter Norbert at the time was a new hire, as I mentioned, and was off duty when this fire broke out on his street. After running into the building with no protective gear and ensuring everyone was safe, he could have gone back to the comfort of his home. Instead, he volunteered to stay and then worked alongside his colleagues to protect the exposed buildings from worsening structure fire in that dense residential neighborhood. In recognition of his bravery, the Commonwealth is pleased to present firefighter Brandon Norbert with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct.
Good morning. Before I begin, I'd like to take a moment to recognize Governor Baker and Lieutenant Governor Polito for their steadfast support for these awards and the fire service over the past 8 years. From the Merrimack Valley explosions to the COVID-19 pandemic to the brutal brush fire season that we experienced this summer, we couldn't ask for an administration more receptive to our concerns or our needs. I want you to know how deeply each and every one of us have appreciated your leadership and your partnership. Thank you very much. The next award is the Stephen D. Cohen Fire Marshal's Award. This is the only award for which a civilian may be eligible. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Christine Candler to the stage. Firefighting is an inherently dangerous calling. But of all the hazards we confront each day, occupational cancer is the one most likely to take our lives. Firefighters are far more likely than the general public to be diagnosed with cancer, to develop it earlier in life, and to discover it in its later stages. Dr. Christine Candler is determined to improve our odds. Dr. Candler is a passionate advocate and a tireless crusader for cancer awareness, prevention, and early detection in the fire service. As a board-certified dermatologist, she's made it her mission to screen as many firefighters as possible for skin cancer, helping them to identify, treat, and survive a potentially deadly diagnosis. It's a mission with deeply personal roots. Like almost everyone in this room, Dr. Candler lost someone in the fire service to occupational cancer. Her brother, Peter Candler, was a Chelsea firefighter and an academy instructor who lost his own battle with cancer in 2016 when he was just 37 years old. Following Peter's tragic death, Dr. Candler put her training to use by independently offering free skin cancer screenings to any firefighter who was interested. After initially working on her own, she contacted the Massachusetts Firefighting Academy in 2018 to see if we could expand her reach. Since that time, the interest has exploded, and she screened 3,265 firefighters at scores of local firehouses. I don't think that includes the people she looked at today in line. All on her own time. To give you an idea of how urgently these services are needed, about 16% of Dr. Candler's firefighter patients require follow-up care. That's a rate 60% higher than the public they protect. Time and again, we hear the same 5 words from firefighters who beat melanoma because she helped them spot it in time. Dr. Candler saved my life. The fire service is becoming much more attuned to occupational cancer than we used to be. But most of us don't have a dermatologist who can provide meaningful information and a clinical exam. Dr. Candler has made that resource available on request in the very places we work and live. And her perseverance has brought her before state and national dermatological associations, where she presses her case for similar programs nationwide. So far, about 10 other states are trying partnerships like ours, and we hope many more will follow. The Firefighter of the Year Awards recognize acts of life-saving heroism by our brother and sister firefighters. Dr. Candler might not be a firefighter, but she's a hero and a lifesaver all the same. It's my great honor to present the 2022 Stephen D. Cohen Fire Marshal's Award to Dr. Christine Candler.
Thank you, Peter. Doctor, on behalf of everybody, thank you. Please welcome from the New Bedford Fire Department, Lieutenant Charles Bailey, Firefighter Richard McHugh, who is unable to be here today, Firefighter Anthony Resendez, and Firefighter Kevin Sweet. On the afternoon of September 19th, 2021, New Bedford Fire responded to a 3-family home for reports of an air conditioner on fire. On arrival, crews found a window AC unit burning on the sidewalk and smoke was coming out from the second floor window. As the incident commander surveyed the building, he saw an open window in the rear of the building with black smoke venting from it and a woman and a small child peering out. Crews immediately threw a ground ladder into place while additional personnel made entry to attack the fire. That mother, already burned and terrified, wanted to drop the child to firefighters. Instead, Lieutenant Bailey and Firefighter Resendez ascended the ladder, rescuing the woman and the child through the window. That child was autistic and nonverbal, but Lieutenant Bailey was able to communicate with him by using sign language. The victim had second-degree burns and the mother was on a ventilator for weeks, but both of them made full recoveries. For their situational awareness and decisive actions to save the lives of a mother and her child, the Commonwealth is pleased to present these New Bedford firefighters with the 2022 Governor's Group Citation for meritorious conduct. And would Lieutenant Bailey and Firefighter Resendez please step forward? For their quick thinking and composure under an escalating situation, the Commonwealth presents Lieutenant Charles Bailey and Firefighter Anthony Resendez the 2022 Firefighter of the Year Medal of Valor. Gentlemen, thank you. Please welcome from the Lynn Fire Department, Captain John Lynch, Firefighter Thomas Lowry Jr., Firefighter John Maloney, and Firefighter Michael O'Connor. On January 6th of 2022, Ladder Company 1 of the Lynn Fire Department responded to a request for assistance from the Lynn Police Department. A man in emotional crisis was threatening to jump from the 5th floor of a parking garage. Police and mental health workers were attempting to console him, but he was very distraught and clinging to the outside of the railing. While police and mental health workers continued to speak with the man, Lynn firefighters maneuvered the ladder truck into position and quietly extended the aerial into position directly behind him. Time was of the essence, and their first concern was getting to the patient. They positioned themselves at the tip of the aerial with no tether and no other support. On cue and working in unison, the first responders quickly secured the distressed man on the ledge. Firefighter Maloney pinned him tightly to the railing to prevent that man from jumping or falling. Captain Lynch positioned himself to stabilize and support Firefighter Maloney. The group was able to forcibly lift the man, who was vigorously resisting at this point, up and over the railing and onto the roof deck. He was secured to a stretcher and transported to the hospital for evaluation. For their teamwork and life-saving efforts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is proud to present these Lynn firefighters with the 2022 Governor's Citation for Meritorious Conduct. I also ask that Captain Lynch and Firefighter Maloney please step forward. For their extraordinary actions demonstrating the highest levels of physical, mental, and technical discipline, the Commonwealth is pleased to present Captain Lynch and Firefighter Maloney with the 2022 Firefighter of the Year Medal of Valor. Well done, gentlemen, well done. I now call to the stage Firefighter Paramedic Matthew Higgins and Firefighter Paramedic Michael Salvucci of the Natick Fire Department. It was just before 4 o'clock in the morning on December 18th of 2021 when Natick firefighters responded to the report of the smell of smoke at a 12-unit apartment complex. When they arrived, they found heavy fire pouring out the first floor apartment and a witness who said there was still one occupant inside. The witness was the trapped occupant's son. The man had tried to rescue his mother, but the heavy choking smoke made it impossible. Firefighter Salvucci, who was acting lieutenant on the incident, and Firefighter Higgins entered the window leading to the victim's room. As flames roared around them, and conditions quickly deteriorated, they located the victim and removed her through the window to EMS care. The mother and son were both transported to the hospital, though gravely injured. The mother did hold on for several more months before passing away. But the bold and decisive action by firefighters Salvucci and Higgins gave her loved ones a chance to say goodbye in a place of peace and dignity. For their bravery and extraordinary actions that led to the rescue of two people, the Commonwealth is proud to present firefighter paramedic Matthew Higgins and firefighter paramedic Michael Salvucci with the 2022 Firefighter of the Year Medal of Valor. Thank you, gentlemen. Please welcome from the New Bedford Fire Department, Captain Brandon Silva and firefighter Neil David Costa. New Bedford Engine Company 1 responded to an early morning fire on December 6th of 2021. It was a triple-decker apartment building. Upon arrival, they were told that one occupant, an older adult, was unaccounted for and might still be inside. Captain Silva and firefighter Costa raced up to the second floor where that man lived. They were unable to force entry through the front or rear because of heavy clutter that created barricades against the doors. The fire, which had started in the man's apartment, extended into the second floor common area. They were finally able to open the rear door to conduct a search while another crew worked to extinguish the fire. Now, once inside, they located the unconscious man and began a desperate effort to move his accumulated belongings out of the way as the conditions deteriorated. That 65-year-old man was in cardiac arrest when firefighters transported him out of that building. And tragically, despite valiant efforts by firefighters and paramedics, he succumbed to his injuries at an area hospital later that morning. But for their decisive actions and putting their own safety in jeopardy in order to save another, the Commonwealth is proud to present Captain Brandon Silva and firefighter Neil David Costa with the 2022 Firefighter of the Year Medal of Valor. Thank you both. And for our last and final award today, a call to the stage, senior firefighter Frank Anthony Pappalardo and firefighter Matthew Canty, both of the Nahant Fire Department. It was just before midnight on December 23rd of 2021. The Nahant Fire Department was called to a single-family home with heavy smoke and fire coming from the windows and an attic vent. Police at the scene reported that there was an older adult in a wheelchair trapped inside a bathroom. Engine 31 was on scene within a minute of dispatch. Firefighters Canty and Pappalardo entered the front door with a 1 3/4-inch hose line and immediately encountered heavy fire. As firefighter Canty applied water to the fire, firefighter Pappalardo proceeded past into the bedroom and started to wheel the victim towards the exit. Excessive clutter hampered the escape, and that man slipped out of the wheelchair. Firefighter Canty left the hose line to help firefighter Pappalardo carry the man to the front door, where police carried him to an ambulance. While preliminary reports stated that the man was alone, Nahant Fire was familiar with the home and believed his wife would be there too. The firefighters entered that home again to complete the primary search and found her unresponsive on the kitchen floor. Together, they carried her outside, and both victims survived their injuries and recovered out of state. Firefighters Canty and Pappalardo risked their lives for safety to carry an injured senior to safety from a raging fire, and then did it again because they knew their community and believed that there was a chance of saving another life. For their bravery and determination to save a life not once, but twice, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts is proud to present Senior Firefighter Frank Anthony Pappalardo and Firefighter Matthew Canty with the 2022 Firefighter of the Year Medal of Valor. Gentlemen, thank you. And if you could, before we wrap this up, could I just get another round of applause for all the firefighters up here on this stage today? Thank you all. That does conclude our awards, and I'd like to thank our recipients this year for their remarkable actions, efforts, and achievement on behalf of the entire Commonwealth. I'd like to thank their departments and supporters, as well as for taking the time to join us on this very special day. And finally, I'd like to recognize all of our firefighters for answering the call every day, no matter what danger stands before them. I ask that you stand as Fire Chief James Vona, President of the Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, rings the fire bell in remembrance of all firefighters who have passed away in the line of duty, followed by a moment of silence and amazing grace by the Brockton, Greater Boston, and Worcester firefighter pipes and drums. Following amazing grace, Reverend Bruce Arbor will deliver the benediction.
As we have been blessed by the witness of those who have given of themselves to their community, fulfilling their oath to serve the Commonwealth and those whom they love and care for, we ask your blessing upon each. As all firefighters go out back into their communities, ready and prepared to answer that call, may you bless them with your safety. And may you comfort their families with the assurance of your peace and that safe journey home. Be with us and walk with us as we walk in the great gift of our communities. Amen.
Thank you, and thank you, Reverend, and thank you to everybody who contributed to the success of this event, including our sponsors. The Massachusetts Property Insurance Underwriting Association, National Grid, Motorola Solutions, Professional Firefighters of Massachusetts, Northeast Gas Association, Berman Adjusters, Fire Chiefs Association of Massachusetts, LW Bills Company, Massachusetts Call Volunteer Firefighters Association, and the National Fire Protection Association. We also do, of course, want to extend a big thank you to Mechanics Hall, as well as the City of Worcester for their generosity. Please join us immediately following the conclusion of the ceremony for lunch on the second floor. Today's breakfast and lunch is provided by Calabria's Ristorante, Napoli's, and Wegmans, as well as many others. This does conclude our program. Please remain at your seats until the stage participants have left the hall. We thank you for joining us here today, and may you all have a safe and happy Thanksgiving.